The tall, gangly thing?
Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by Robinsongz, one of the top 4 finishers from the TFT Fates Regional Qualifier this past weekend. If you don't already know who Robin is, I'm going to have him introduce himself a little bit and tell you a little bit about him as a player and his stream.
Okay, hi. My name is Robin, and I am a TFT player. I don't know if I can call myself a professional player yet, because I'm not like playing for any organization or anything. But yeah, basically I've been challenger every set, and I recently took the dive of going full-time streaming, and so yeah, I stream full-time now. I'm competing in tournaments and trying to stay like on top of the ladder at all times. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, so you're actually one of the few players who's guaranteed a spot at all 4 of the regional qualifiers for TFT Fates. What do you think it is actually about your play that's made you such a consistent tournament threat?
I guess playing less greedy and playing more safe. For these tournaments, you don't need first place to advance. All you need is to place higher than 50% of the players of that day. And in order to do that, all you need, if you get like 4-4-4-4-4, you're gonna advance for sure. So there's no need to play greedy, and I generally play like super safe, which means like I roll earlier than people and I roll down to 0 gold. I don't care about interest really. Interest is a fake trait. And then so usually my scores are like 2, 3, 4, whatever. I rarely get 8s in tournaments. I don't think I've ever gotten an 8th in a tournament. And but yeah, so basically the first day like top 16 moves on or something. The second day top 8 move on. And then even the last day, you don't even need to get first. Like if you're aiming for first, you get the biggest cash prize and the most points. But obviously, you're just aiming for top 4 because top 4 people move on to the next qualifiers, which is what you're aiming for. So yeah, I guess that's the thing. Like playing generally safer and greedier, less greedier.
Yeah, makes sense. And in this last event, you showed that you could flex into other comps, but it seemed like in every game you were kind of looking for Elderwood mages. Do you feel like having a comfort comp that you can kind of rely on is important in a tournament setting?
For me as a player, like if anyone knows, like I'm like a supporter of like choosing what comp you're gonna play really early. A lot of people like maybe like the developers or might not think this is the way you play it, but the benefits of this is that you know exactly what units to look for and you know exactly what items to get. And since this meta is so item dependent, picking a comp early is super important, because if you don't know what comp you're going to play, you're just going to be like, oh, you're going to pick like very ambiguous items, and then it's just not like, you just like, okay, you end up getting like Gwynsu's or whatever, and then you end up wanting to play KO and you don't have RFC. It's like that. It's like I don't know. It's not as efficient in my opinion. I played mainly Elderwoods in the finals, but in my other games, you can see me playing Shyvana Brawlers, and you can see me playing like Katarina carry, and that goes along with me playing safer. I tend to stay away from the fast 8 comps and the comps that you can roll at level 7. So I can stabilize earlier, and those comps don't even fall off later. So that's why my strategy was to play the comps that you can roll at level 7, basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I remember seeing in a lot of the games where you weren't really afraid to roll to, 30, 20, 10, even down to 0 at 7, which, at the end of set 4, a lot of the meta revolved around this, like, fast 8, go 8 at 4-5, and, it kind of showed that your ability to stabilize at 7, worked out in your favor.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about this tournament series is the inclusion of an open bracket, right, where people can qualify through either the Team Liquid. I think Cloud9 might have held one for this past event. There have been a lot of people who have said that the people who qualify through an open bracket are not really tournament threats. They're much lower rank than the invited players. But this is the second tournament where an open bracket player has actually qualified to the final day. How much of that do you chalk up to just high rolling, and how much of it is it that you actually have to, consider these open bracket players a threat?
I wouldn't say they're not a tournament threat, but they are going to be generally weaker players. Like no flame, no ego. That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. If you look at the tournament games, and if there's if there's a person who came through open qualifiers, usually they are gonna place bottom 4. Sometimes they do place top 4 because this game has a lot of variance, and they are good players, So they could like, as you can see, I think it was Surium who got to the finals. But then generally the people from the open qualifiers are going to be weaker than the tournament players, and that's just how it is. Because if they were they would be on on top of the ladders. If they're people who are on top of the ladders, I feel like are generally the better players because that it has less variance because there's more games played. So, but I wouldn't say they're not tournament threats because they have to be good in order to make it all the way through the finals of the open qualifiers, and they showed that they can actually compete. But they are generally weaker. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think there's the exception where you could have a dark horse who maybe doesn't play a lot of ladder. Maybe they don't have the time to actually grind ladder and play multiple games a day. But yeah, I agree. For the most part, if they were strong enough to win the tournament, they probably would be able to climb the ladder as well. That said, though, do you think that tournaments actually have a different skill set than ladder?
Some people think oh, this guy's a good tournament player. This guy's a good ladder player, ladder warrior, whatever. But in my opinion, I think it's very similar. Besides maybe you might get a little bit more nervous in a tournament play, but generally I think it's pretty similar. Usually the people that are on top of the ladder are the ones that are winning the tournament. Usually, besides maybe okay. There is a difference, but there's not that big of a difference, in my opinion. Because ladder play has a lot of mental in it. It's a lot of games. So if you tilt easily, you might not be as high in the ladder because you'll just not play your best for some games or in a string of games. That's real. You can see someone going bot forward 10 games in a row. It's not because they got unlucky 10 games in a row. It's because they're not playing well. They're tilting. But in a tournament game, you don't play that many games, so you might not tilt. So then you might they may be a good player, but they might not be as strong to control their emotions. So I guess that is the difference as well. But generally, I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's not uncommon in tournament to see a player place 8th or bot 4 multiple times and actually still advance to the next day because it's a lot easier to kind of swing it back in your favor.
Yeah.
Do you feel people talk about metas, emerging in tournament? Do you feel like you actually kind of metagame the lobbies based on who's in your lobby, or is it really just about playing your game?
I don't think you ever. I mean, if there's a person that's a one trick in your lobby and then you will. You don't change up your game, but you might hold their units. If someone is Asian Gamer 5, when he was in a tournament, he was a Zed one trick. So you would just, if you see Zed and you don't lose interest, you would just hold Zeds. You hold ninjas, you hold sheds, stuff like that. But other than that, I don't think anyone will change up their game plan just because another person is in the lobby.
Do you feel even if you don't really metagame the other players in your lobby, an actual metagame can emerge from the tournament itself? If people are playing a certain style day 1, then day 2, you may see this type of play style emerge to counter. Maybe it's stabilizing on 7 if you see that people are, playing really greedy and you want to punish that, or maybe it is re-rolling more often than these fast 8 comps.
For me, I think a lot of the top players, they have an understanding of the meta before they go in. So I don't think the tournament will change the meta or anything, because I already knew what the meta was when I was going in, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the top players knew as well. It's reroll comps are strong, Shyvana's strong, rolling at 7 is strong, and also going 8 is also strong, but you're gonna probably be playing Kale or Slayers. But I think everyone has a general understanding of the meta. I don't think the meta will form itself during the first day. Like, I don't think the first day a lot of people are playing reroll comps, and then we will go over the first day and be like, oh, this is happening. I mean, I don't think anything was a surprise, because I think the top players playing like hundreds of games on ladder, and like there's a lot of different discords that people are in that are always theory crafting and stuff, so always staying ahead of the meta, I guess. So I think most of the top players already have a general understanding of what the meta is before they go into the tournament. So I don't think anything is surprising them, or I don't think anyone is changing up their gameplay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So kind of, stepping away from that specific tournament and looking a little bit longer term, with you being able to qualify for all 4 of the events, it does mean that you have, arguably the highest chance of just qualifying for the regional finals through qualifier points, if not qualifying through your ladder position anyway. Who do you think are actually some of the biggest threats going into the regional finals in a couple months?
I think the biggest threats are not the usual people, like Soju, Kiyun, GV8. I don't think No Flame. I don't think they're the biggest threats. I think the biggest, because I think the biggest threats are like the newer players, like Noob Owl, Setsuko, Spencer. Those players, I'm always afraid when I see them in a ladder game. These guys always place really well, whereas I think it's just like a new era of players coming in, and I'm most scared of those players. I even have like a sweaty folder in my league, and it has Noob Owl, Setsuko, and those players in. Oh, also Ramblin. Ramblin was my dual partner for my dual tourney, and he came in a little bit late, so he can't make it through snapshot points. But I think he is one of the best set 4.5 players right now. He can probably qualify through like the final qualifying. There's a final qualifier tournament or something.
Yep.
And yeah, those are the players I think are going to be very, very scary. And like a lot of. So this is the thing. A lot of other regions talk smack about NA being weak, right? But then it's because they're only they only see like me, Soju, Kiyun, GV8, like the popular streamers, right? But they don't see the people who don't stream. And in my opinion, I think they're actually even better players. They're a better representation of NA, which is like Noob Owl, Setsuko, Spencer, and there's a couple more people I didn't mention. But yeah, those are the people I'm probably the biggest threats, in my opinion.
Nice, yeah, that's really interesting to hear. I definitely didn't expect that. Talking a little bit more, you're just talking about how you are one of the larger streamers for TFT. You mentioned earlier how you've gone full time pretty recently, and just in the last couple months. Why don't you talk a little bit about like what are your long-term goals for streaming or with TFT itself?
My long-term goal, I mean, I guess my goal is to eventually be signed to an org, to be able to play for an organization, and to be able to like make a living, I guess, out of playing TFT for now, and then gain a huge following where in the future I can probably stream other games and also make a living. So that is my goal right now, and my goal is also to win the championship, TFT World Championship, and as many tournaments as I can, basically. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things kind of talking about like tournaments versus streaming is like in a lot of other games, people talk about how when you're streaming, it's hard to improve. Like you can't really give the same amount of focus that's required to improve as when you're just playing off stream. Do you feel like if it were more lucrative to be a tournament player, if there were enough TFT tournaments that you could actually just make your living off of being signed to an org and competing, would you be able to stream still? Do you feel like you can still improve enough as a player on stream?
So yeah, I would still be streaming.
Okay.
I think you can still improve. I think you can still improve if you stream. What I just think streaming and playing is a handicap, basically, when you're competing. But I think you can still improve because you can just go back to your VODs and you can still play off stream even when you stream. But I do think that playing while streaming and interacting with chat and stuff like that is a handicap to if you were playing off stream, because off stream 100% of your focus is on the game. You can use that 1 or 2 seconds when you're reading chat to scout or reposition, stuff like that. But yeah, so if there were a lot of tournaments where I could make a living straight from tournaments, I would probably still stream, but maybe during the tournaments, I would play off stream.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's totally fair. If the TFT like professional scene were to ever take off, what do you think are some of the things that would actually have to happen for that to be possible?
I think they just need to make like they just need to make more. They need to put more like transaction stuff like in the shop. Like you can decorate your little legend or whatever, you know, like more things that customers can pay for. So they can. I think right now they have a money issue, so they can't like. I don't think they're making that much money from TFT, so they can't host that many tournaments, and they don't. So Riot doesn't really care about it. But I feel like there's a lot of money to be made where they can like, what's that word? I don't know, transaction or like basically
they have to monetize the game better.
Yeah, right? They need to monetize the game better, in my opinion. Like, I think they're doing it better now. Like, you can buy the little staff drop thing for a lot of RP, but they should put more like decorating your little legend or your warrior or your more like effects of those. I don't think it's that hard to make, but more of those effects, and then like basically monetize it more. And through that, if they make more money from TFT, I think Riot will support it more, and then they will have more tournaments. More tournaments, more cash prize means more people will join, and then more people will take this seriously, and then maybe it will take off. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think like TFT is a game of variance that oftentimes is compared a lot to poker, right? One of the biggest differences, though, is like the pure volume of poker events versus TFT events, where if you're a professional poker player, you can play in a tournament every day, essentially, right? The equivalent of it. Whereas in TFT, we kind of have one large tournament a month, you know, at best. That's if you're in North America and you're in like a great tournament scene. So I think you're right. I think you kind of hit it right on the head. Like if you could monetize the game, people could afford to host more events. I think we'd see, you know, less variance because people would just be playing in more events and, you know, in doing so, get more games in. But go for it.
I was thinking like Super Smash Brothers. They have like a lot of tournaments, and I don't know who hosts them, but we could do something like that. I don't think they're all hosted by like Nintendo, right?
No, the majority of it's actually all grassroots. It's all just like locals or you know, regional events, and then you have like your nationals that are still actually all grassroots, like just led by people in the community.
Yeah, so I think we could do something like that. I think TFT is still pretty new, but there are more and more tournaments coming up from different communities, like common.gg, which is like a social media for TFT, and then I definitely do see a lot more like amateur tournaments coming up. But the problem with these amateur tournaments is that the cash price is not worth playing that long. It's like $100, or it might be worth to some people, but I think in the future, I think there will definitely be more tournaments when more of these little small communities, you know, more small communities like develop.
Yep. I totally agree. That's actually everything I have for you. So before we head out, is there anything else that you'd like to shout out?
Shout out to you for making these videos. I've seen some of your videos. They're like super high quality, and I think we need some of these because everyone like me, we just make I just record myself on a webcam and we just talk. But your videos are really, really like high production or produced, whatever. But it looks really professional, and I think it's cool. So keep making videos.
Thanks, man.
It's good.
I really appreciate that. All right, well, thank you, Robin, for joining me today. And thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to comment if you have any other people that you'd like to see interviewed in the future, and subscribe to see more TFT content in the future as well.